one is called, that boosted special attack by 1 stage once it drops below 50% of its health.
Very interesting. So once again, for those of you just tuning in, we have Dimitri on the left side of your screen. We have Gavin Michaels on the right side of your screen. Dimitri running that Alolan Marowak, Salamence, Gigalith, Porygon 2, Tapu Bulu, and Celesteela team versus Gavin's Magnezone, Araquanid, Porygon 2, Hariyama, Drampa, and Mimikyu. A lot of Mimikyu today, too.
I mean, Mimikyu is such a cool Pokemon, right? Disguise is a great ability. We do see the dual Porygon 2s out there. You know, Gavin does have a much better Trick Room setup than Dimitri does in terms of Hariyama can provide Fake Out support. Araquanid is actually a Pokemon that I want to talk about because Araquanid has a very good matchup against Marowak. Water Bubble is a ridiculously good ability.
What does Water Bubble do?
It prevents your... It makes you resist fire type attacks. You can't be burned, and it doubles the power of all your water types, which is ridiculous. That's 3 abilities in one.
That is insane. I'm surprised we haven't seen more Araquanid already, honestly. I don't know. So many new Pokemon, so many new strategies. It's so exciting to see these trainers, you know, putting so much thought into the Pokemon they bring to these tournaments.
Oh, a Kamala plush.
Yeah, and there's another new Pokemon. Again, there's so much creativity around right now. It's so exciting just to watch these games unfold. You know, seeing these different matchups, seeing the slower metagame. I'm so excited to see this match start.
And we do see the Hariyama and Porygon 2 leads out for Gavin's side, as we do see Tapu Bulu and Marowak out for Dimitrio's side. Trick Room's most likely coming up here.
Trick Room is most likely coming up, but interestingly enough, Dimitri sent out that Alolan Marowak as well, which will certainly not be upset if Trick Room gets set up. It'll help boost its speed on the field, maybe allow it to attack with that Flare Blitz or that Shadow Bone, or possibly even a Boomerang here. Hariyama, maybe not in the best position right now.
Yeah, and we did see Porygon 2 get a special attack boost, which is... It's the boost that I wanted. We didn't get to see it much past rounds, as we do see Hariyama now go for a Fake Out onto that Tapu Bulu. Gonna make Tapu Bulu flinch and not be able to move, as Marowak goes for a Flare Blitz onto that Porygon 2. Is it gonna be enough to pick up the KO here? No, because Porygon 2 is, of course, very, very bulky, as Porygon 2 does get the Trick Room that it wants up.
Yeah, so a great opportunity there for Porygon 2. It essentially got that Trick Room for almost free. It hardly did any damage to that Marowak. It's going to be able to recover some HP thanks to the grassy terrain, and if it has a move like Recover, you know, in its arsenal of moves that it brought to this battle, it certainly can bring, certainly can heal more. But that Hariyama with the Flame Orb, with that burn, I believe it is holding the Guts ability, which will now double its attack because of the fact that it has the burn.
Yeah, and Guts isn't really an ability that we see too much. I think a lot of players do opt for Thick Fat more because, you know, being able to resist is a lot better than being able to do a lot more damage. It does prevent Hariyama from getting poison, toxic poison maybe, but at the same time, I mean, Hariyama's already hitting like a truck. It's going to be doing so much damage anyways. It has a sky-high attack stat, and it's pretty bulky. You might as well just add more to its bulk, in my opinion. But, you know, this Hariyama now is going to be hitting so hard because of that Guts ability.
Definitely. It probably won't be able to target that Alolan Marowak. It is a fighting type Pokemon, but we will see the Marowak switch out, so who knows. It looks like that Salamence, though, looking to use that Intimidate maybe to sort of weaken Hariyama's potential going into this next turn.
Yeah, and that Intimidate...
Porygon 2, I don't think it wants to deal with that Intimidate. It's switching out, and instead we see the Drampa take the field, so I'm very excited about that. We do see the Cloud9 ability. Hariyama using Knock Off to target that Salamence and remove its Choice Specs. So also dealing some damage and having the added bonus of removing any sort of special attack boost that Salamence may have had, but that Wood Hammer from Tapu Bulu, so strong, almost knocking out that Hariyama in one hit, and I believe it might be at risk for getting knocked out because of that burn. It's going to be close, and Hariyama just barely hanging on.
Yeah, and you know, Grassy Terrain does work better with burn damage this turn since, this generation, because it doesn't do as much damage in terms of burn damage, but that Wood Hammer did a lot of damage to that Hariyama. And we do see that Drampa has a Cloud9, not going to come into play this. Well, there is the Gigalith on Dimitrio's side, but it's not going to come into play just yet. Maybe it's going to try to prevent Gigalith from possibly switching in and getting kind of a sneaky knockout by bringing up the Sandstorm to prevent the Grassy Terrain recovery and that burn damage as well. So Drampa really just trying to play some protecting roles here.
Yeah, definitely. Drampa, it can't really damage that Bulu, but it has Fire Blast, so it attacks into the Protect. Hariyama with close combat into the Salamence, trying to knock it out, but Salamence holding on with 17 HP. Hariyama now is weakened, so will this Draco Meteor knock it out? Instead, it goes for the Drampa, but the Drampa dodges it.
Yeah, that's a pretty big avoid right there because Drampa's going to stay out in the field. Cloud9's going to be out in the field just for one more round. As we do see Hariyama heal up and, of course, take that burn damage. Of course, that grassy terrain burn duo that just works off better a lot this generation. Yeah, Salamence, if it hit that Draco Meteor, then that opens up the opportunity for Demetrius to possibly bring in the Gigalith this upcoming turn to just pick up that KO on that Hariyama from both the burn damage and that Sandstorm damage.
Yeah, and Drampa has another opportunity here to Fire Blast that Tapu Bulu. Not really sure how much damage it's going to do. Tapu Bulu is a Fairy and Grass type Pokemon, so a little bit of interesting typing going on there, but certainly Tapu Bulu would not appreciate taking damage, especially since Woodhammer, it takes recoil every turn. We'll have to see what we're going to see this turn.
Yeah, and we do see Tapu Bulu switch as Gigalith does come in. That's probably what Demetrius was trying to do, and he's just going to go ahead and do it anyways. Drampa now goes for a Draco Meteor, now connecting onto the Gigalith here. Going to do a good amount of damage. Wow, picks up the one-hit KO.
Wow, a massive amount of damage, getting that one-hit knockout. Gavin correctly predicting that Tapu Bulu was going to switch out that turn. And also Drampa revealing its life orb hold item with another knockout from that Hariyama to knock out that Salamence.
Yeah, that turned into a much better turn for Gavin than I thought it could have been. I thought that, Drampa was going to get knocked out, but of course, the double up right there, even with the Sandstorm boost, that did a lot of damage. Oh, well, Cloud9, of course.
Yeah, so Cloud9 is canceling out that Sandstorm, allowing Hariyama just to hang out here with just enough HP for it to continue dealing damage throughout these turns.
Right, and of course the Cloud9 also prevented Gigalith from getting that special defense boost that a lot of rock types really enjoy getting.
Yeah, so Drampa is really doing a lot of work here, allowing Gavin to get the knockout on that Gigalith, bringing Dimitri down to his last two Pokemon here, that Marowak and that Tapu Bulu. Dimitri's really going to have to think hard on how he's going to handle things moving forward. Alolan, Marowak, and Tapu Bulu don't really share a nice type advantage in terms of how much damage they could do here, but Alolan Marowak gets Shadow Bone, which might deal a decent chunk of damage to Drampa. All he really needs to do is connect an attack to finally knock out that Hariyama, but I don't know. Look, we see a Protect.
Yeah, Marowak now protecting himself as Hariyama goes for a feint, breaking Protect. Well, of course it can't break Protect on Marowak, but it trying to protect or break the Protect on Tapu Bulu, and of course Drampa goes for a Fire Blast onto the Tapu Bulu, and it hangs on by just a little bit as we do see the Life Orb recoil, and of course the Draco Meteor drops from before played a huge role in that survival as we do see Hornleech hit the Hariyama. Gonna heal back a little bit of hit points here, maybe like 3? Oh, sorry, 5.
It's going to heal back 5 HP, and because Sandstorm still isn't active, it'll gain a little bit more thanks to that grassy terrain, but it is just barely hanging on, and unfortunately one of the downsides to Dimitri's position on the field right now is if he knocks out that Drampa, then and we lost the grassy terrain, so really Tapu Bulu is in a really dangerous position right now. And if Gavin had brought a very fast Pokemon to this battle, I think now would be the time when we see it.
Yeah, and now Gavin has decided what to switch in. We have seen the Porygon 2, I believe. We do see the Porygon 2 come out right now, and Porygon 2, we're going to see what it downloads here. Is it going to go for the special attack that it really wants? It does get another special attack raise, which is good for itself because it can, start with the offense right away and maybe set up another Trick Room.
Yeah, I don't know if Gavin wants to set up another Trick Room right now. Marowak really is the only Pokemon, I think, on Dimitri's side of the field right now that has a decent offensive potential. I mean, Tapu Bulu could always go for another Hornleech and possibly gain a little bit more health back, but I would think that setting up that Trick Room would really give an advantage to Dimitri more than it would help Gavin at this point in time. But who knows, maybe that Drampa has some sort of water type move up its sleeve, maybe a ground type move. We'll just have to see going into this turn.
And we do see a Hornleech connect onto that Drampa. Not very effective damage, but still doing a good amount of chunks to it as it does heal itself back up as Porygon 2 continues to recover itself. I'm not going to want to go on the offensive, just, kind of stay around.
Yeah, and I think staying around for it is exactly what it wants to do right now. We see a Bone Meringue into the Drampa. One hit brings it down into the yellow. Will the second hit knock it out? Drampa holding on, using that Fire Blast once again to target that Tapu Bulu, but this time it definitely knocks it out. That Marowak certainly has a tall order ahead of it if it wants to sort of turn things around and give Dimitri the win at this point.
Yeah, and Drampa's on the edge of getting knocked out too from its own life orb recoil, so at least now Demetrius can try to focus down this Porygon 2 slot. I'm not sure if this Porygon 2 has anything that can hit it, so it's going to be kind of close, but you want to target down the Porygon 2, let Drampa knock itself out. It's already had 2 stages of reduced special attack.
Definitely. We see an Ice Beam from Porygon here, so a very interesting choice, which leads me to believe that Porygon might not have another move that can deal damage to that Marowak, who targets that Porygon with a Flare Blitz, brings it down to about half health once again, and we see another Draco Meteor from Drampa, so this will deal some damage to that Alolan Marowak. It has been weakened from the previous Draco Meteor, but it leaves it with enough HP that I think Porygon is safe to knock it out with that Ice Beam next turn.
Yeah, and that should be it for this game. Demetrius played a very good game here, but unfortunately the switch into Gigalith, not sure, maybe just trying to take an attack from that Drampa, the normal type attack, or a Fire Blast from that Drampa, but Gavin made that great read that turn, and that was really the deciding factor in this game. We do see Magnezone reveal, which is good information for Demetrius to pick up on.
Yeah, definitely. If you were thinking of bringing Celesteela next game to maybe help turn things around, knowing that Magnezone was in the back might not be, a good idea of assurance, if you will. Magnezone, as we said earlier, has a fantastic matchup against Celesteela, basically trapping it on the field and subjecting it to electric type attacks that are super effective against it. So Demetrius really has to think now what Pokemon he wants to bring going into the next game. Gavin certainly using Trick Room to his advantage, despite the fact that both of these trainers seem to have Trick Room compatible teams.
Yeah, and Demetrius is going to have to remember that Drampa has Cloud9. Can't really get I mean, we saw Gavin make that read. Again, I'm emphasizing that read because that was an amazing read.
That was an amazing play.
To go for a Draco Meteor into a fairy type slot,
yes,
and then getting it right. Like, it's one of those situations where if I get this right, it pays off so well, and there's no way how he can come back from it. But if it doesn't, then now I'm in the hole, and I need to find a way to dig it out. So, Demetrius, he has the tools that he needs to be able to do, and to be able to do work and pick up the win here. That Marowak has a decent matchup against that Magnezone, and Salaman's getting knocked off right off the bat. That's kind of unfortunate. Losing that choice specs, also unfortunate. Salamence is a Pokemon that really wants to just hit hard, get knocked out, maybe get one Intimidate in, hit hard, get knocked out, and then get another switch in. So it's tough for Demetrios because Gavin just made that good read, and Demetrios now has to be able to pick up one good read to get that edge up on Gavin.
Yeah, Demetrios really taking his time here to decide what Pokemon he wants to bring to this game. Gavin locked in fairly early on, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see sort of a similar approach from him going into this game. Demetrios, though, we talked about that Salamence getting knocked off. Certainly, knowing that Porygon 2 had Ice Beam too certainly isn't really a great thing for it. Maybe we won't see Dimitri bring that Salamence at all this game.
Right, and we do know that Hariyama does have knockoff, which means that Demetrius does have to be careful with his Marowak. He has to be careful with his Porygon 2. He has to be careful with all his Pokemon because losing the Thick Club makes Marowak effectively not as an offensive threat, and Porygon 2 losing its Eviolite makes it not as threatening and not as doesn't have as much staying power.
Yeah, definitely. Well, here we go into Game 2 of Round 4 of the Pokemon Regional Championships here in San Jose. Very excited to see what these trainers decided to bring and how they decided to adjust. Take it away, Dewey.
Yeah, and we do see Hariyama and Porygon 2 now leads out again for Gavin Michaels to set up a trick and possibly, as we do see Porygon 2 and Tapu Bulu out for Demetrios' side. We'll have to see exactly where the boosts go after we see the Grassy Surge activate. Gonna go ahead and cover the battlefield. Porygon 2 on Gavin's side goes first with a special attack boost, and Demetrios' Porygon 2 gets in special attack boost as well, but goes second. So that's either speed tie or one is just slower. Or,
yeah.
one is, yeah.
It's either a speed tie or one is slower. Interesting that Dimitri decided to bring his Porygon 2 to adjust here. Sometimes trainers counter Trick Room by using Trick Room themselves, but that is also something that's sort of easy to play around. So if Gavin seeing that Porygon 2, I'm certain that's going through his mind. I'm not really sure what to expect though. We saw the Tapu Bulu do a lot of damage for Dimitri in game 1, so I'm sure he'll want to try and keep that up going into game 2. But like you said, Hariyama has Fake Out, it can flinch here, and that's exactly what we see it do.
Gonna go for a Fake Out onto the Tapu Bulu, gonna make it flinch.
Oh!
Double Trick Room!
Double Trick Room. Dimitri using his own Trick Room to reverse the Trick Room that Gavin set up. Beautifully played by Dimitri, but I'm not sure what it's going to buy him here, other than, I guess, another chance for Tapu Bulu to potentially Woodhammer that Hariyama.
Yeah, and of course now with Guts, Hariyama does get, a little attack boost, so that...
Really nice attack boost.
That turn worked out for Gavin as well, because now Hariyama can easily pick up the KO on Porygon 2.
Yeah, it's almost like someone just pressed pause on the battlefield here. We saw Tapu Bulu take a little bit of damage thanks to that Fake Out, but it healed some of it back due to the grassy terrain, and other than that, not much really happened. So Hariyama almost got that Guts boost for free, but it doesn't look like Gavin's going to be utilizing it this turn.
And we do see Magnezone switch in right now, not going to be Magnet pulling anything just yet, as we do see the Woodhammer into Magnezone's high physical, wow, 50% still.
That did a lot of damage for the fact that Magnezone resists that attack.
And it has a very good physical defense that, as we do see the Ice Beam connect, Tapu Bulu survives though.
Hanging on with just 20 HP as Porygon 2 going for a Thunderbolt into the Magnezone, again resisting and again just sticking around for one turn more.
Yeah, and we do see the grassy terrain again affect every Pokemon on the field. Such great recovery for every single Pokemon on the field, and oh boy, I'm still amazed at how much damage that did to the Magnezone.
Yeah, Tapu Bulu is certainly one of those Pokemon that you wouldn't sort of expect to be so powerful, but then you see one in battle and you're like, wow, that really does a lot of work, and it's such an amazing sort of design. It allows the rest of your team to be bulky while still dealing damage. It's certainly one of the Pokemon that I hope we continue to see more of as this metagame develops.
Yeah, and both players have kind of abandoned the whole setup Trick Room the thing that they tried for turn 1, so...
Yeah, I don't blame Gavin there. Getting your Trick Room canceled out by another Trick Room is not that fun, but now it's really on both these trainers to try to figure out, well, will my opponent go for that again? But first we're going to see Tapu Bulu here deal yet more damage.
So many multipliers attached to this. I think this Tapu Bulu might be carrying a grass type boosting, Miracle Seed to boost its grass type attacks, as we do see the Ice Beam connect on the Tapu Bulu and pick up the KO here. A lot of damage was dealt though. I mean, to be able to pick up the KO on a Magnezone with the Tapu Bulu, I'll take that any day, as the Ice Beams get exchanged right now. Porygon 2 on Dimitri's side hits Porygon 2 on Gavin's side with an Ice Beam as well. A little bit of chip damage here and there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think these Porygon are here to stay. Both these trainers seem very reluctant to switch them out, possibly due to the download boost that they received on turn 1 of this game. So it's all going to come down to how they manage the field and how they handle whatever Pokemon get sent in next. In this case, we see that Alolan Marowak and that Hariyama back on the field with that Guts boost.
This is a chance for Gavin to set up Trick Room, but again, not quite sure if he wants to. Porygon 2 is definitely threatened right now because that Hariyama can easily target down with a powerful close combat or any fighting attack that Hariyama can throw at it.
And it also has a knockoff to potentially weaken that Marowak, both by dealing some super effective damage to it and by removing its thick club if that's the item that Marowak decided to bring into battle.
Yeah, but you don't necessarily have to go for the Marowak just yet, because the Flare Blitz won't do more than 50% to the Porygon 2, and Porygon 2 can just heal that back up, as we do see Porygon 2 on Gavin's side go for... Oh!
Thunderbolt into the Marowak thanks to its new Alolan ability, that Lightning Rod. Marowak going for a Flare Blitz here, so unfortunately for Dimitri, I think he just slipped up a little bit. It's so hard to remember these new abilities. I don't blame him. We see the knockoff into the Marowak for the knockout.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate because that could have been a knockout on that Hariyama right there before his own Marowak got knocked out, so... unfortunate for Demetrius to forget that, just because Marowak is no longer ground type doesn't mean that it's still drawing away your ground type or your electric type attacks.
Yeah, it's a very interesting set on his Porygon. I'm sure what happened was he might have just slipped up when team building. You certainly don't want to bring that many electric type Pokemon with you if you do have that Alolan Marowak, unless it's something like a Tapu Koko or a Circuitry who may carry the discharge attack, which will deal damage to all the Pokemon on the field, regardless of any sort of abilities like that.
And Salamence does come in and go for an Intimidate onto that Hariyama, but I mean, Hariyama already did its job by knocking out a Marowak. It would be nice if we could pick up the KO on this Porygon too, so maybe do some switching to get the speed the way that Gavin needs it for Hariyama to pick up the KO on the Porygon too.
Yeah, and his own Porygon 2 does carry that Ice Beam. We know Ice Beam is a super effective attack against Salamence. We see it use Draco Meteor to target the Porygon 2, possibly hoping that it'll knock it out before it can knock out the Salamence, but that is not the case. Porygon hanging on, using that Ice Beam for the knockout. And all Hariyama really has to do here is target the Porygon 2 on Dimitri's side of the field, and I think that's game.
Yeah, and Porygon 2 now goes for an Ice Beam onto this Harry. Oh no, goes for the Porygon 2. And
oh, it misses the knockout, but it freezes the Porygon, though I don't think that's going to matter moving forward because close combat into the Porygon 2, but it survives with just 21 HP.
That Intimidate from before definitely paid its dividends there. Oh boy. And Porygon 2 does have some hit points recovered, but the fact that it's still frozen in midair, doing a little waddle.
It's trying its best right now, but I don't know if it'll be able to thaw out. Porygon 2 on Dimitri's side of the field, we haven't seen if it had recover. We did see it move before the Hariyama, so it's possible that we might see Dimitri maybe try and stall for a little bit of time for that burn damage, maybe to knock Hariyama out, but it's going to be a very interesting position for him to be in because we do still have Gavin's last Pokemon, and I don't remember if we've seen it yet.
We haven't seen it yet, but looking at it, Drampa, Araquanid, or Mimikyu are possibly in back. Porygon 2 can take a couple of these matchups, but it could take a couple of these matchups, but
it would be an uphill battle.
It would be an uphill battle. You know, Porygon 2 needs to stay frozen, ideally.
If anything, we would have to see the Araquanid from Gavin, because otherwise I don't think Porygon 2 would have a chance. Faint into the Porygon 2, not enough to knock it out.
Is this a recover? Oh, go straight for the Ice Beam.
It's not the recover. Going for the Ice Beam into the Hariyama slot. Will it do enough damage? It does. So it all comes down to what Gavin's last Pokemon is.
Yeah, and you know, good call right there from Gavin. It really came down to, is this Porygon 2 going to recover itself, or is it going to go ahead and go for the knockout? Just get a little bit of chip damage before Hariyama gets knocked out, just in case.
Yeah, that Drampa, though, I can't remember the speeds from the last game, and we didn't see the Porygon on Dimitri's side of the field, so if it moves first here, I think Gavin has this one, but we see the Ice Beam instead from that Porygon 2 into the Drampa. It deals a massive amount of damage, but Drampa holding on with a Draco Meteor, and it will connect, and Gavin Michaels wins this set against Dimitri 2-0.
There were definitely some chances for Dimitri to possibly pull that out. Maybe a critical hit or another freeze would have gotten him it. But Gavin played that exceptionally well as well. You know, it's just, he's the former national champion, and Dimitrios played an excellent set as well. You know, he realized his options. Unfortunately for him, you know, Gavin made a great read in game 1, and then in game 2, he just forgot that lightning rod, drew away the attack. So that's unfortunate for Dimitrios, but congratulations to Gavin on that solid victory.
Yeah, it's definitely a hard lesson to learn, especially when it happens like mid-tournament. That's really...
It really is. And we go now into team preview again. For those of you just tuning in, Gary's team is going to be Arcanine, Muck, Porygon 2, Gastrodon, Tapu Koko, and Mimikyu. It looks standard, but I assure you, they are not quite as standard sets as you would believe. Aaron, Cybertron, Zhang using Pelipper, Tapu Lele, Metagross, Tapu Koko, Kartana, and Golduck. There it is, the Kartana that we were talking about just earlier.
Yeah, and Aaron's actually got 2 steel types on his team, so what's really interesting here is because he's got that rain mode, so it makes you not want to bring a fire type like that Arcanine against these 2 steel types. Gastrodon also known for being pretty good against steel types, however that Kartana, being a grass type, is really strong against Gastrodon, and if you're, you know, kind of intimidated, pardon the pun, of bringing Arcanine against a rain team, these steel types could really do some work against Gary's team.
Yeah, and you know, the rain mode is also one option to kind of ward off that Arcanine, right? Like, Arcanine, it can go for flamethrowers, overheats, but at the same time, you're not getting as much damage output as you'd really like.
Right, and Gastrodon is really, really good against rain, but because Aaron's got that Kartana, Gary does have to try and protect that Gastrodon and really focus his efforts on taking down the Kartana so his Gastrodon can really clutch him the win.
It's kind of like a chess match, right? It's going to be blow for blow right now. Like, who's going to be able to take the first knockout? Who's going to be able to kind of retaliate with the second knockout as well? As both players now are getting ready to get underway, the battle is starting. Aaron Zhang on the right, Gary Chan on your left. Gary Chan going to lead the Arcanine and the Porygon 2 as Metagross and Tapu Lele come out right now for Aaron Zhang.
Yeah, so the Intimidate's not going to work against Metagross thanks to its clear body. And we see the Psychic Surge go off first, so Tapu Lele is going to be faster than this Arcanine. Tapu Lele does kind of have to watch out for Snarl from the Arcanine, but other than that, neither of these Pokemon really threaten the Tapu Lele. But
and
we do see a special attack boost.
rise.
That's huge because Porygon's such a bulky Pokemon, but when it gets that special attack boost, it lets it become an offensive threat now too.
Yeah, and Porygon 2 now can easily hit that Tapu Lele as well. Can't really have much to hit that Metagross though, unfortunately.
Yeah, but still, you can hit the Tapu Lele, whether it's a Tri-Attack, an Ice Beam. There's a lot of ways to hit Tapu Lele, depending on what kind of set Gary is using. And then Arcanine, of course, threatening that Metagross. However, if Aaron does have his Rain mode in the back, then Arcanine will be in a lot of trouble.
Could be an easy switch to Pelipper. Pelipper does resist fire-type attacks, and the Rain, of course, will just dampen the attacks even more, so that would be possibly a good switch right there. Aaron Zhang, one of the best players in this. He's been a pretty solid player, consistent player.
Yep, and of course Gary does have to watch out for Tapu Lele. You can't underestimate how much damage that does. Even if this Arcanine is really bulky, it'll still take a lot of damage, but we do see the Muck, which is great against Tapu Lele.
Yeah, and of course, with that Dark typing now, it is going to be pretty good against the Metagross as well. As we do see Tapu Lele now go for the Shattered Psyche after gaining the Z power from that Z Crystal blocked by Muck's Dark typing though, as Arcanine goes for a Willow, so great read right there from Gary.
Yeah, great switch into the Muck there, and the Zen Headbutt not doing anything to that Muck.
Yeah, great turn right there from Gary, and Aaron just kind of hitting into the Muck trap.
Yeah, because Porygon is not a Pokemon that usually has Protect. In fact, almost never it has Protect. So bringing Muck in there, maybe Aaron was expecting Arcanine to protect itself. Didn't want to go for that slop because Gary may not have been feeling safe leaving his Arcanine vulnerable there. Wanted to take out that Porygon, knowing how much of a threat Porygon can be, especially after that special attack boost, but that Muck switch in was key.
And we do see Tapu Koko now come in for that Metagross slot. We do see the Electric Surge change the terrain on the field as Tapu Lele now goes for a substitute, not going to want to take damage at all, maybe trying to set up a substitute here as Arcanine goes for a Snarl. That's going to bypass that substitute though, because it is a sound-based move, and Tapu Lele's special attack stat and Tapu Koko's special attack stat are now lowered, so wow, Snarl. As Gunk Shot does dodge, does miss the substitute, but that's perfectly fine. Snarl did affect the Tapu Lele anyways.
Yeah, Tapu Lele is not in a good spot here at all. It's lost its terrain thanks to that Tapu Koko switch, and Muck is just so good against it. Snarl goes through the sub, and it's already lowered its special attack one stage, so Tapu Lele, even though that Gunk Shot missed, Tapu Lele doesn't even want to be in here right now. It's not going to be able to do much damage, and Tapu Koko even has to watch out because Muck is also really bulky and certainly threatens a one-hit KO there with Gunk Shot.
Yeah, Gunk Shot's such an amazing attack, very powerful, and hits all the Guardians super effective. We did see the switch out from Porygon 2 earlier. That's paying huge dividends right now because this Muck is exerting so much pressure.
Yeah, and a normal switch in here might be a Metagross into a Poison slot, but it can't get hit by a Dark move from Muck. It can't get hit by a Fire move from Arcanine. So I think Aaron's in a really, really tough spot here.
And we do see Arcanine switch out right now. Going to go straight into Gastrodon here. Trying to take an electric type attack. Ooh, blocked by Gastrodon. And Tapu Lele goes for a Psychic into that Gastrodon slot. But Gastrodon has huge special bulk here. Not going to do that much damage at all. Great reads right now from Gary as we do see the Gastrodon go for a Moringa Berry, raising his special defense even more as Muck now goes for a Gunk Shot. Going to connect onto this Tapu Koko right here. Going to do massive amounts of damage and picks up the KO.
Yeah, I think Aaron, he can't let this get to him. He's getting out-predicted almost every turn here, but this is a best of 3, so he can't let it get to him. He is 4-0. He's a veteran player, but I do think he has to start looking towards Game 2, try and get more information out of Gary's team, and I think bringing Kartana was definitely a good play because we'll see how good it is against this Gastrodon, but I think the Rain mode is going to have to come out for Aaron in Game 2 because Gary just he had the answer for everything that Aaron brought. And if he doesn't bring the rain mode, he's just going to have to rely on his predictions and just make better plays because Gary really, really read him this battle.
Yeah, I mean, the first switch already kind of wasting that Z move into a not effective move at all.
And with how powerful Z moves are, you don't want to waste them like that.
Right,
So,
it's like getting your Mega Pokemon knocked out right away.
yeah, especially when you know the opponent has a Muck, and we saw Aaron does have Substitute on his Tapu Lele, so maybe next time don't be so reckless with the Z move.
And we do see now Gastron protect itself as Kartana goes straight for a Smart Strike onto the Muck, reading that Protect easily as Muck takes a lot of damage with the critical hit. As Tapu Lele does go for a Psychic into Gastron's Protect, Muck now goes for a knockoff right here. Gonna target down the Kartana, gonna do about 40% of damage right there as Muck does heal itself back up with leftovers. Sorry, Black Sludge.
Yep. But Gary, he's got the Arcanine in the back, which can intimidate the Kartana and resist any potential grass moves going to that slot. Tapu Lele doesn't have the terrain, has lowered its special attack already by Snarl, so it's really not doing too much damage there. Unfortunately, it will mean the Moringa Berry on Gastrodon will have been a waste if he decides to switch it out, but Arcanine just, it would be so good against both of these Pokemon, and yeah, Muck, unfortunate critical hit, but it's just so bulky. We see even now it's got half its HP left, and it's restoring every turn thanks to that Black Sludge, so I think a Protect from Muck and bringing Arcanine in here for the Gastrodon is a pretty safe play.
Yeah, you know, intimidate the Kartana just once more, make sure that Muck will survive another Smart Strike possibly.
Yep.
You know, Gastrodon, I don't even know if Gary really needs Gastrodon much anymore. I mean, it will do great against the Tapu Lele, but not going to be matter too much because Muck can also take care of Tapu Lele as well as Arcanine. Arcanine does come in for the Intimidate here, gonna intimidate Kartana as Muck protects itself. So exactly as you read it, Ray.
Yep, it's a pretty safe play by Gary.
We do see the Sacred Sword here connect onto the Arcanine, predicting that switch right there as Tapu Lele also goes for a Psychic onto that Arcanine slot here. Gonna do a good amount of damage. So Aaron Zhang with the reads as well.
But just look how much damage that did to Arcanine. Double targeting it, and it barely did more than half, and now the Citrus Berry heals it up. The burn Metagross in the back is, you know, Gastrodon can take on that really easily. Even Muck can take that on easily, but now he threatens Aaron really, really well here because Kartana, since it had the Assault Vest, it's not going to have Protect, so Kartana could very likely go down this turn.
Yeah, and I mean, you're right. The Muck is burned. Its physical damage output is going to be halved, and that's just bad. Muck can hit it super effectively. Arcanine can hit it effectively. I don't think we've even seen Gary's last Pokemon. Oh, no, the Porygon 2, right?
Porygon 2, which
yeah.
is still at full HP.
And that's problematic because if you don't have enough firepower to take on that Porygon, it's just going to sit there and recover on you.
Yep.
We do see Arcanine switch out right now. Gastrodon's going to come back in right here, predicting Sacred Sword into that slot. And we do see it hit the Gastrodon here, going to do a good amount of damage, actually, as Tapu Lele also goes for another Psychic, but Muck now has free reign to go for an attack. Gastrodon taking a good amount of damage, bringing it down to about 35%. Muck now going for a knockoff onto that Kartana, just chipping away at Kartana as Muck continues to recover, and it's almost back to a little bit over 55%.
Yep, Gary knows he doesn't need Gastrodon anymore, although I think Arcanine would have been able to take another attack from Kartana and a Psychic from Tapu Lele. Not 100% sure on that, but it certainly looked like it would have been able to, in which case he could have knocked out the Kartana, or if Metagross came in, it just would have knocked that out. But since Gary knows the Kartana was Assault Vest, it's not going to have Protect, so he didn't have to fear Protect there, but he knows his team better than I do, so maybe he expected a double target into that slot to have knocked out the Arcanine, but Gastrodon, he knows he doesn't really need it, so just trying to stall, get some more damage onto that Kartana, and eventually probably bring in the Porygon to finish it off.
And we do see Tapu Lele now switch out. Metagross coming in. It is Burn going to take slow chip damage, and it's already not going to do that much damage at all, as Gastrodon does get hit with the Leaf Blade. Gastrodon finally gets knocked out, and now Muck gets one turn to go for whatever. It does get the Power of Alchemy, does get Storm Drain. Unfortunately, that's not going to matter too much in this matchup, as the Beast Boost comes out, going to restore the Intimidate that it's going to restore its attack stat to normal after that Intimidate from the Arcanine, as Kartana takes another knockoff, brings it down to less than 25% of its hit points remaining as Muck continues to heal back.
Yeah, so now he can bring in Arcanine. Since that Kartana got the Beast Boost, bring in the Arcanine, reuse the Intimidate to lower its attack back down, and Gary will just be in a great spot.
And of course also threaten that Metagross as well.
Yep.
So we do see the Intimidate now going back onto that Kartana, negating that Beast Boost that happened earlier. Arcanine's Intimidate does not affect Metagross because of the clear body, and now, you know, this is pretty much it.
Yeah, there is no way for Aaron to take down these Pokemon. And Gary even still has Porygon 2 in the back if he needs it.
Yeah, and now it comes down to a game of can Gary pick up these KOs without having to reveal too much information to Aaron so that he can have it for game 2.
Yeah, especially the Arcanine, because we've seen Will-O-Wisp, but we haven't seen anything else, so Aaron might not know Arcanine's full set. He knows it's going to be bulky, thanks to seeing that Will-O-Wisp already, but he doesn't know to what extent, what kind of moves it can have, because we did see in London, or at least I saw a couple Snarl and Morning Sun Arcanines that were just completely stalling. We did see some Toxic Arcanines as well.
And we do see the Smart Strike connect onto Muck, going to bring it down to less than 50% as Arcanine goes for another Snarl. It is super effective on Metagross, does pick up the KO on Kartana, and now Muck can easily go for a knockoff onto the Metagross as Metagross does get to go first, goes for a Zen Headbutt onto the Arcanine, doing a good amount of damage, but Muck just going to go ahead and be content with minimizing here.
Yep, it's fine. The Metagross, it's burned. It doesn't really threaten a whole lot, but based on that damage, it's certainly possible that Metagross has some kind of boosting item, whether it's a Choice Band or something of the like. But even so, if it is Choice Band, then it can't ever hit Muck.
Right.
But even if it's not, and it's just some other kind of Psychic move boosting item, then it's just not going to be able to do enough damage to Muck as the game goes on, and Muck just walls both of these Pokemon. Now it's got the Minimize, so it's going to be hard to hit, and even Arcanine threatens the Metagross. The Snarl will lower Tapu Lele's special attack again, so you can't leave Arcanine alone either.
Yeah, it's a tough position for Aaron Zhang. Aaron Zhang does know that Minimize does exist, as the Moonblast does connect onto the Muck with the Minimize, but not enough damage to pick up the KOs. Arcanine goes for a Morning Sun and gonna heal back 50% of its hit points here and be fully, it's healthy again pretty much, as the Zen Headbutt does come out, connects onto the Arcanine and does a good amount of damage, bring it back to about the way it was, as Muck goes for a knockoff onto the Tapu Lele. Gonna go ahead, well, I guess it already knocked off the item. Oh no, you can't knock off the Psyche MZ.
Yep.
So again, it's just coming down to it. I guess the Pokemon on Gary's side are actually heavily damaged.
Yeah, he does have Porygon in the back. If he can just save Muck and take out this Tapu Lele, then he's in a good spot. But at the same time, if Aaron is able to knock out Muck, then Metagross, there's still a chance with the Zen Headbutt, especially since Psychic Terrain is now boosting it, so it does sort of negate the burn at least a little bit.
Yeah, as we do see Tapu Lele now. Oh, Muck avoids the attack as Arcanine goes for an overheat onto this Metagross, picks up the KO, and that should do it. Oh
Yep.
no, hits the Tapu Lele instead.
Well, that should still do it. If Metagross is locked into the Zen Headbutt, then
you can't hit it, as Zen Headbutt does.
And even if
connect
not,
on
it's
Arcanine.
burned. And there's still a Porygon in the back for Gary, and even if Gary decides to knock off the Metagross, it'll just do so much damage, so...
Yeah, Muck does go for a knockoff right now into the Metagross, does a good amount of damage and picks up the KO at that point. Gary wins game 1 here of round 5.
We did see its Choice Band, though, so now it's confirmed.
Confirmed, yeah. So Aaron Zhang now has to go back to the drawing board to try to figure out how he's going to take advantage of the situation, of all the information that Gary has given to him, and use that to his advantage going into game 2.
Yeah, so Aaron was able to bring that back, so that was really well played after getting out-predicted really heavily in the early turns of the battle. Aaron was able to bring it back there, but he was just in such a hole after those first couple turns that it was just so difficult to come back. But he's got to stay fresh, keep his mind sharp, maybe adjust in game 2. I don't know if he wants to bring those same exact 4, because we did see he ran into a little bit of trouble against Gary. Perhaps try the rain mode in game 2. If you bring it alongside the Kartana, you really only have to watch out for the Gastrodon and the Tapu Koko, just because it hits the water type so hard. But Tapu Koko is pretty frail. So I think there are ways for Aaron to play around Gary's team if he brings the rain mode. And even if he doesn't, we did see that if Aaron would have played better in game 1, made some better predictions, even bringing the non-rain mode in, he might have still been able to win, so.
Yeah, and let's not forget that Gary had an incredible first 2 turns where he completely outpredicted Aaron in terms of wasting Aaron's Z-move, getting free switches and free burns.
Yeah, so that's why Aaron
turns 1
might
and 2.
feel confident bringing the same 4, because if he would have played that differently, maybe gone for a substitute on turn 1 instead of doubling up into the Muck switch, and he would have been in a great spot.
Right. And Oh man, here we are going into game 2 right now between Gary and Aaron here in San Jose, California. Both players ready to send out their Pokemon. Gary won game 1, and now Aaron back against the wall wants to try to stay undefeated, as we do see Mimikyu and Tapu Koko out for Gary's side here. The infamous cursed Mimikyu, as we do see Tapu Koko and Tapu Lele out for Aaron's side, the infamous double Guardian lead.
Yeah, I haven't really seen too many double Guardian leads before, but this will certainly be interesting.
Well, the battlefield's getting weird, so it's definitely getting weird here. We do see the battlefield get weird. Of course, the Psychic Terrain goes up, which means that Tapu Lele is going to be the slowest one on the field. I missed exactly which Tapu Koko was able to set up the terrain, though.
Yeah, but Mimikyu does threaten Tapu Lele with potential ghost moves such as Shadow Claw. So even though Aaron got up the Psychic Terrain, he does have to watch out because Mimikyu does have the Disguise up. So Aaron probably won't be able to take it out this turn unless he doubles into that slot with an Electric move from Tapu Koko and then maybe a Psychic Z move into Mimikyu. But I don't know if Aaron wants to use his Z move that early, especially against a Mimikyu. But maybe he does want to.
We do see Tapu Koko now go for a Dazzling Gleam on Gary's side, goes for Tapu Koko and Tapu Lele, as Tapu Koko on Aaron's side goes for a Thunderbolt into the Mimikyu's Disguise. So going to go ahead and break the Disguise for the game, and now Mimikyu is vulnerable to damage. We do see the Life Orb from Aaron's Tapu Koko, as we do see the Shattered Psyche come out from that Tapu Lele from Aaron Zhang. Look at that. Look at that focus on that Tapu Lele, just trying to concentrate all of its power, getting ready to do a lot of damage to what appears to be the Mimikyu here from Gary's reaction.
He'll knock out whichever he chooses here.
Yeah, because of the psychic terrain, and oh, there goes Mimikyu, gonna go ahead and have its Psyche shattered right there, as we do see Mimikyu now get knocked out before it can do anything on the field at all after only getting a Dazzling Gleam in turn 1 with that Tapu Koko.
Yep, so great start for Aaron there, picking up a free KO onto the Mimikyu. He does lose his Psychic Z Crystal, however, in exchange for a knockout, definitely worth it. And even that Dazzling Gleam didn't do a whole lot of damage, so great start for Aaron there.
And we do see Porygon 2 come in right now. What is it going to go ahead and download? Is it going to raise its special attack or attack? We do see the attack rise, unfortunately, for Porygon 2.
Yeah, but it should still be able to do enough damage with a Dry Attack into that Tapu Koko slot, especially after another Life Orb recoil. And then Gary, it depends what he has in the back, because his Tapu Koko doesn't have the Electric Terrain up, so it's not going to be able to knock out the Tapu Lele this turn.
And we do see Gary's Tapu Koko now go for another Dazzling Gleam onto Tapu Koko and Tapu Lele, as we do see Tapu Koko on Aaron's side go for a taunt onto the Porygon 2, as Tapu Lele now goes for a Psychic onto Tapu Koko on Gary's side. Gonna go ahead and bring it down to his Focus Sash here. Gonna hang on. It is a fairly frail Pokemon, as Porygon 2 now goes for a Tri-Attack onto Tapu Lele. Does not pick up the KO, unfortunately, but it now is in Dazzling Gleam range.
Yeah, so if Gary can get off one more Dazzling Gleam, he'll pick up a double knockout, so that would be really good for him.
Yeah, and, you know, being able to pick up a double knockout, that means that Porygon 2 can try to get a setup if it wants to, if it has any good setup moves.
Well, it just got taunted, so it can't set up, but even so, maybe he wants to predict a switch and just go for an attack. Or if, you know, maybe he wants to conserve Porygon 2 and he wants to switch it out, expecting a double knockout here. Unlikely, he'll probably just stay in and attack with it.
A wasted turn on Porygon 2,
but
or maybe just try to get something off just in case something bad happens. Maybe it's been a speed type with the Tapu Kokos.
Yep, certainly possible, since we've seen Aaron is Life Orb, so certainly possible.
We do see Aaron's Tapu Koko now retreat into Metagross here, as Tapu Koko on Gary's side goes for another Dazzling Gleam, going to connect onto Tapu Lele. A little bit of chip damage onto that Metagross right now, as Porygon 2 does get to go for an attack, but Metagross will wall this Tri-Attack and take it pretty well.
Unless it gets a status effect.
Burn? No status effect at all, so luckily for Aaron Zhang, nothing bad happened there.
Definitely. But this is interesting, because if Aaron brings Tapu Koko back in, now if Metagross has Bullet Punch, it can actually pick up the knockout onto the Tapu Koko, whereas right now, of course, with Psychic Terrain up, it can't go for that.
Yeah, and then you have to decide whether or not you want to lock yourself into the Bullet Punch. You can still switch because the Tapu Koko hasn't been knocked out yet.
Yeah, it is risky locking yourself into Bullet Punch, since you have such a low HP Tapu Koko that could get knocked out by Porygon. Unless Aaron wants to bring it in, protect his Tapu Koko, and then go for the Bullet Punch, but it's always risky locking yourself into Bullet Punch just because of how little damage it does.
Yeah, and you do want to try to pick up this knockout on the Tapu Koko because Gary's Tapu Koko has won every single... It's gone first before Aaron's every single time.
Yeah, and a Thunderbolt would... There's a real good chance it could knock out Metagross here, depending on how Aaron's Metagross is trained. So you kind of have to go for the Bullet Punch there.
Yeah, and it's a tough call right now. It is 3-3. There's still one more Pokemon in the back for Aaron Zhang. And we... I forgot if Gary already showed his last Pokemon, and I don't believe he has.
No. But the question for Aaron here is, does he want to protect Tapu Koko? So that way, if Metagross locks itself into Bullet Punch, it lets Aaron switch out the Metagross. Because Tapu Koko, you know, if it goes for a Thunderbolt on Porygon, sure, it'll do a lot of damage. But eventually, when Taunt runs out, it'll be able to recover all that damage. Aaron may want to save that Tapu Koko for whatever Gary has in the back. And we do see the Protect.
And I do believe now Aaron's going to go for... a Bullet Punch, does go for the Bullet Punch into the Tapu Koko slot, does leave himself an option to switch out and reset his choice move. So that's always good, as Porygon 2 goes for a Tri-Attack right now into the Metagross here. Is it going to get a status? Unfortunately not, but Porygon 2's taunt does wear off.
Yeah, which will be good if he ever needs to recover, for example, if Aaron double targets that Porygon slot. But now we see Muck. This is going to be... really tough to deal with here. Tapu Koko will be able to get a lot of damage onto it, but we've seen Muck, how bulky it is. It's got minimized, so it certainly gives Gary a chance. And since we saw the taunt run off, Porygon could always go for a Trick Room.
Of course, Tapu Koko could always just taunt it back as well, but that would be wasting a Tapu Koko move.
Exactly. So it becomes a prediction. Does Aaron want to waste an offensive attack here with his terrain up just to predict the taunt? We'll see.
And we do see Metagross switch out right now, want to reset that move, as we do see Kartana come in, could possibly get its Assault Vest knocked off here, as Tapu Koko does go for another taunt here. Going to go ahead and prevent Porygon 2 from trying any setup, as Muck does get to go for a knockoff right now onto that Kartana, does a good amount of damage and knocks off again the Assault Vest, as Porygon 2 goes for a Tri-Attack here. Who is it going to target? Targets the Tapu Koko and picks up the KO.
Yeah, so Gary predicting that taunt there, really well played going for the attack there. Doesn't want to play any games with that Tapu Koko, especially knowing that it does have taunt.
And this is going to be pretty close. We're down to the final 4 Pokemon, 2 from each side. Metagross has been damaged. Kartana has also been damaged. Not much damage has been done to Porygon 2, or none at all has been done to Porygon 2 or Muck, besides the fact that Porygon 2 is taunted.
Yeah, so Muck can knock out Metagross, and since it's Choice Band, it's not going to have Protect. Kartana also has Assault Vest, so it's not going to have Protect, so Gary can really choose which one of these Pokemon he wants to knock out this turn, because if he doubles up into either of them, he'll pick up a KO.
Yeah, and Kartana, without that Assault Vest, does become very weak special defensively naturally. The Assault Vest does give it a little bit of a boost.
Right, so Porygon's Ice Beam will probably actually do a pretty good amount of damage to that Kartana now.
Yeah, and of course, if you knock out Porygon 2 before you knock out Muck, then of course Muck's going to get the power of Alchemy and possibly get a download into its attack stat.
Right, certainly possible.
As we do see now, Kartana goes for a Smart Strike onto the Muck. Going to do a good amount of damage, as Metagross now goes for a Meteor Mash into Muck, but Muck avoids it, and now Muck gets to go for a knockoff onto that Metagross and easily picks up the KO. Porygon 2 now going to get to go for a special attack on his Kartana slot. We're going to see if it is enough to do the damage that it needs to do to pick up the KO, as another Ice Beam does come out, does pick up... No, Kartana hangs on by just a little bit, but Kartana cannot pick up 2 KOs, like, in one turn.
No, that Meteor Mash really cost Aaron. Because it was Choice Band, there's absolutely a good chance that that would have KO'd the Muck, and that probably would have given Aaron the game because he's got a Choice Band. He would have had a Choice Banded Metagross against Porygon 2 and a Kartana as well, and it's really unfortunate to lose on a miss like that, but that's Pokemon. Meteor Mash has such high power, and it does not have perfect accuracy, so that's a trade-off that you make for choosing that move, but unfortunate to see, but it was a really, really good match.
Gary Chan defeating Aaron Zhang here at the San Jose Regional Championships in a convincing fashion, 2-0. Very well done by Gary. I mean, the reads that he had in Game 1.
And Game 2. I feel like his reads in both games, even though we did see Aaron have good moments where he out-predicted Gary, but Gary really, really played well, made a lot of good reads